mind who said, yes, we can, a turning point in integration and education. Racial segregation, the separation of a group of human beings by race. Historically, it has affected every aspect of our lives and our nation. Racial segregation bred racism. It created the hatred of one human being by another. Because of racial segregation, racism has influenced wars, slavery, the formation of nations, legal codes, the list goes on and on. The point where most people adopted racial segregation as the right thing, the normal way of living, goes back to June of 1892 in the Plessy versus Ferguson court case. In this case, the justices declared that facilities for blacks were constitutional and separate, as long as they were of equal quality. This separate but equal doctrine was quickly extended to cover many areas of public life, including theaters, restaurants, restrooms, and public schools. However, this ruling was false, as facilities for blacks were always inferior to those for whites. Well, until 1954, that is, when the equally important Brown versus Board of Education court case finally struck down this separate but equal doctrine. In this case, the justices declared that the separate but equal doctrine established in the Plessy versus Ferguson case had no place in the field of public education. Separate facilities were inherently unequal. Therefore, they claimed that students that were kept in separate facilities for schooling were deprived of the rights that they were guaranteed in the 14th Amendment. Because of Brown versus Board of Education, states were ordered to integrate their education facilities. In the North, this was not a dilemma, as most had already started to integrate. However, in the South, segregationists were infuriated. They claimed that the federal government had no right to interfere with state powers, so they nullified the law. Meanwhile, in Little Rock, Arkansas, Daisy Bates of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP, coordinated with the Little Rock School Board to allow a group of black students attend the all-white Central High School. This further enraged the segregationists. They picketed outside the school board building, yelling things like, "Race mixing is communism! Kill the Negro lovers!" These threats scared away most black children from attending Central High School, leaving a final group of just 9 students who were intent on integration and receiving a better education. These 9, who were soon to be recognized as the Little Rock 9, were Ernest Green, Melba Beals, Terrence Roberts, Carlotta Walls, Jefferson Thomas, Thelma Mothershead, Minnie G. Brown, and Elizabeth Eckford. I, Elizabeth Eckford of the Little Rock 9, had heard about the threats and the chaos that might happen on that morning, September 4th, 1957, our first day of school. But honestly, I was more concerned about the dress I was making for that day. I had also heard about the National Guard being placed around the school, though I didn't think much of it. I generally assumed that Governor Orville Faubus had put them there to ensure the protection of all the students. When I got to school, I saw many of these National Guardsmen. When I reached the front entrance, I approached one who had let a number of white students pass into the school. He didn't move. Confused, I tried to squeeze past him, and he raised his rifle. Then the other guards moved in and raised their rifles. One of them said with revulsion, "This school is off-limits to Negro students, and Negro schools are off-limits to white students." They stared me down, and I became very frightened. A mob of angry white students moved in on me, weapons in hand. The rock-cold faces of the guards told me they would not provide any protection. I began to walk toward a bench at a bus stop that I felt would provide some protection. The white mob swam around me, screaming, "Kill her!" Drag her to that tree and lynch her. Filthy nigger. Finally, a nice white woman gracefully approached me. She led me to a drugstore and called a taxi to take me home. This nightmarish day has haunted me, and it will continue to my entire life. Dear Diary, a couple of days ago was the first day of school, and just like we had been hearing for weeks, 9 Negro students showed up at Central with plans to attend. I'm so glad our governor isn't one of those nigger lovers. No, he's clear-minded and luckily stationed the National Guard around the school to keep those filthy blacks out of our all-white high school. But we had to be sure those Negroes got the message that they were not welcome. So we white students sure put up a fight. I carried my sign shouting, 2468! We will not integrate. Integration is against the Lord's will. It's what the minister's been preaching every week in our church. And when I go home at night, Mom and Daddy ramble on and on at the dinner table on how those Negro children must be put in their place. So I must have done the right thing on that first first day of school, yelling at that Negro girl who thought she could just walk right in and attend school with white students like us. Those 9 must all be delusional to think that they're going to be able to integrate Central High School. I saw white men on that first day with whips, bricks, and ropes. If they keep coming back to try to attend, well, may the Lord just bless their souls. Those 9 just need to go back to the high school for Negroes and stop causing so much chaos. XOXO, Hazel Bryan. Thank you. Hello. Hello, I'm President Bill Clinton, and it is an honor to be here today, November 9th, 1999, in the White House, recognizing these 9 brave Americans who have changed our nation for the better. When they got there on that first day of school, it seemed all of Arkansas was against them. This daunting day filled with mobs of people assaulting them with weapons, smashing their car windows with bricks, smothering them with words of hatred and prejudice and bigotry. This day sparked shock all around the nation. When President Eisenhower heard news of this desegregation crisis, he was appalled that the state of Arkansas, under Governor Orville Faubus, had tried to stop integration and nullify a federal law. After receiving several letters from the Little Rock mayor, President Eisenhower decided to send in the 101st Airborne Division to assist the Little Rock Nine and show states that they did not have the power to overturn federal law. This may have been one of the smartest decisions Eisenhower made in his presidency, because if states don't have to follow federal law, what does our American Constitution even mean? However, even though the crowds around the Little Rock Nine had begun to dissipate and the military was in Little Rock, things for the Little Rock Nine did not get easier. As they hurried through the hallways from class to class, angry whites were always on their heels, torturing them on a daily basis while teachers turned their backs. And yet they came back every day and put up with this hatred, because they knew they were fighting for something bigger than just their own education. No, they were fighting for the rights of people all over the globe. This little desegregation crisis in the small town of Arkansas became known as a turning point in integration. It was the first time integration was protested so harshly with so much violence and harsh words. After the Little Rock Nine, people began to realize why it was so important to these few black students. Slowly but surely they began to realize, and they were no longer blinded by their old thoughts and their past values, but they began to see things and people as who they really are. And all of this was started by just 9 teenagers who had the courage to say, yes, we can, when everyone around them said no. And still today, the Little Rock Nine have relevance and impact. Think back to Hazel Bryan, that ignorant white girl who seemed so convinced that the black race was so inferior to the white. Her words seem so imprudent now that we look back on them, but she was only living the way she was taught by her churches, her school, her friends, her family, the ideas that constantly surrounded her in life. Think about today. Our schools, churches, family, friends, even music and television are constantly influencing what is acceptable in our lives. The Little Rock Nine event has showed us that it is our responsibility to evaluate the views that are dictated by society. Today, the Little Rock Nine have impacted our schools. Today, we have blacks and whites learning together, sitting next to each other, even black professors teaching integrated classes. Even though the Little Rock Nine were just a turning point in integration and education, they helped change the view of the black race. They were a turning point in the way we view and treat other people. They initiated a decisive moment in integration and education. The Little Rock Nine were really a turning point in history. And this is why it is a great honor for me to present the Little Rock Nine with a Congressional Gold Medal, the highest award to be given. Thank you.